All right, LeroyDiesel.com. Just wanted to show you a video on how to put in the radio controls. The buttons that go on your steering wheel and will control your radio. This has been done, but I don't think anybody's done a video of it. Sometimes videos are easier to follow along. So anyway, I'm going to assume that you already know how to remove a steering wheel and have the tools for that. Once you get to this point, you've got the lower cover that's on the steering column. It takes a T25, and you've got one here and one here. You just remove those, then it will tilt down, and you have to kind of unhook it. There's some hooks on it that hook into the back here. Set that aside. Actually, you have the tilt lever that comes out first. Hopefully, yeah, this is coming out. So that comes out first. Set that aside. Then the bottom cover comes off. Then you've got two screws, one here and then one about up in here somewhere that need to come out to take this upper cover off. Okay, so I'm going to cut the video, and this lock has to come out, but I'm going to prepare for that, get the right tool for that, and I'll show you how to remove that next. Okay, it's part 2 of the radio steering wheel controlled edition. So I left off with, in order to get this plastic cover off on the top, you got to remove the ignition cylinder. And what I've done on all my trucks is in the top here, I drill a tiny little hole, enough to get the smallest Phillips head screwdriver I can find down in there. But you got to be real precise with that hole because what you're trying to do is depress a spring-loaded tab that's on the column, on the ignition itself. So you would reach down in there. There's a tiny hole that you have to depress. But let me back up. Before you do any of this, you need to disconnect the battery, because you have to turn this thing to the start position in order for that tab to line up in here, the one that you're going to be depressing. So if you're in the start position, obviously if the batteries are hooked up, you'll be cranking the motor the whole time, and that's not good. So with that said, you'll turn this to the start position, reach down, depress that button, and sometimes it's a bitch to, get it all in there and everything lined up just right, but you're trying to depress that right there. And when you do that, when you get that depressed, then that will allow you to pull it out just a little bit. Then you let it go to the run position, and it'll come on out. With that out of the way, we can supposedly, yeah, there it goes, get this off. Set that to the side. From that point, you're pretty much ready to start reassembly. So here is the clock spring out of the this comes from a 2000 to 2003 GMC S10, well, an S10 style GMC or Bravada or anything that's that body style. I forgot what else may come in that body style. I understand that there was some like a 99 Denali or something like that that may have had it also. But anyway, this came from a 2003 S10 Jimmy. And so here's the clock spring. You've got to get it lined up so the horn button lines up through the big hole, and basically just line it all up. This little catch here is going to line up on the aluminum housing on the column itself. Okay, so that's all there is to that, with the exception of there is a snap ring, just a traditional snap ring, and it's going to go down on there, and that's going to hold the clock spring on. I'm not for sure yet if I need the actual snap ring pliers. I'm going to just try it with a screwdriver. I had to get them off with the snap ring pliers, but a lot of the time you can just get them on with a screwdriver. Actually, I need 2 screwdrivers. Like that. From that point, by the way, here's the steering wheel, and it's got the radio control buttons on each side. What you'll do is you'll feed the wires through the big hole. At the same time, you're going to put the steering wheel over the shaft. And it does line up. There's an arrow at the top of the steering wheel right here that you can see. I don't know if you'll see it on the camera, but that's the exact 12 o'clock position, and then the shaft is actually splined so it'll fit on there. I think it only goes on there one way. That would make sense. But so you put that on, and then you've got the horn connection you've got to make, and it just goes down in the channel there, which I can't see. I don't have enough light. There we go. And it's spring loaded, so you just find the keyway that it'll go down in there. I'm having trouble with it though. There we go. And it'll go down, and then a slight twist, and then it'll kind of put a little tension on it, and you relax it. On the steering wheel itself, you have a little wire retainer up here. You want to run this wire under that, like so, and then it will plug into the actual steering wheel buttons, which is this. So that connects there, and then there's a little plastic tab here, which I didn't realize it had come off. I'm going to go get my molding removal tool, remove that, and then it engages the back of the connector here so that it keeps it nice and tight to the column. When we get to the airbag, this is the airbag connection, and it'll just plug into the back there, and it's also good that the batteries are disconnected for that. So leave the batteries disconnected. I'll stop the video again and come back in a few. Okay, so this is part 3. It'll be the last video. In the last video, I got ahead of myself. I was so excited to get the steering wheel on there that I forgot to put the plastic trim pieces back on, but that just goes back on, you know, like you took them off. So I've got the steering wheel back on. The little retainer back here, what that is if you take the steering wheel off and turn it around, it'll have little barbed connectors back there. You can squeeze those together, push that back through, reinstall it on the connector, and then push it back into its hole, and that'll keep that connector down tight to the steering wheel there. I'm not going to actually put the airbag in, because I still need to, I'm still going to have to do the wiring and whatnot, and that will actually be for another video. This wire, there's four wires that go from the steering wheel buttons into this connector and down through the clock spring, and then down underneath the column, and then eventually I have to make those connections to the radio, and I'll show that one in the next clip. Right now the airbag, this yellow connector is actually, it's going to be non-functional in this truck. This is a 1-ton 96, so I'm not even going to plug it in. I don't want to take the chance of a thing popping on me or something. But if you had a vehicle that the airbag was going to go in, you would just plug that in there, and then the airbag would just go into its corresponding receptacle holes down there, and then when you push that, the thing will clip and be retained. In order to get the airbag out, you really got to have the key so that you can turn this thing 90 degrees, and then there's some holes back there you can reach back in there with a screwdriver or whatever and release those little wire tabs, which are, I'll show you that. The airbag engages this hole and this hole, and on the back of the steering wheel you're reaching up, and down in that hole there you can see that wire tab. So you're trying to move that away so that the airbag will release on both sides, and then the airbag would actually come off once you disconnect the electrical connector there. So that's about it. I still got to clean up the buttons a little bit. They're kind of dirty, but got the steering wheel nice and cleaned up. So it looks like a brand new leather wrapped steering wheel. I'm pretty happy with that. So see you on the next clip.